Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the NewsHour tonight and urge you to join my journey through a complex set of questions that must be settled tonight so that history doesn't judge us poorly for not standing up for the truth, and so that we don't have to bear the cross of guilt, of silence when heroes of India's freedom struggle were being tarred with infamy. So, what I want to tell you is today is the time to look at all versions in the eye and decide that we are not held guilty of consent or concurrence when India's Sanatan heroes were being slandered to serve the selfish politics of a few. Viewers, we on the NewsHour tonight are talking about a bold initiative by the Delhi University to introduce a paper on one of India's most maligned heroes, Veer Savarkar. It has invited scorn and condemnation and allegations of saffronization from expected quarters. It's also predictable now. All hell has broken loose since the move threatens to unshackle the minds of the newer generation from the distortions of a narrative that has accorded legitimacy to rule to a particular political ideology. Some would suggest that Savarkar's reinstation to his much-deserved glory is actually the beginning of a course correction required in telling of India's history. Ladies and gentlemen, an ecosystem that has sought to control our sense of right and wrong has deemed it blasphemous for anyone to question their version of history. We have been told that Savarkar was a British stooge and accused in Mahatma Gandhi's assassination. The same ecosystem also associates him with hardline Hindutva, completely unacceptable in today's politics. Some go as far as to call him a right-wing terrorist. None of these theories will stand a careful and unbiased scrutiny of historical records, and yet they have persisted for a very, very long time, begging the question, who benefits from denying Savarkar's place in history? The move to act such chapter on Pakistan's national poet Muhammad Iqbal and include a chapter on Savarkar has ruffled the feathers of this ecosystem. The poet may have written the song Sanjay Jha se acha Hindustan hamara, but was a strong proponent of the idea of Pakistan, in fact the originator of it. The Delhi University Vice-Chancellor detailed in black and white as to why the decision was taken. Listen in.
Savarkar was a very prominent freedom fighter of our country. Savarkar was portrayed incorrectly in India, and the time has come that the Savarkar should be taught in Indian and higher education system in the right perspective. We all know that he has written a song "Sanjay Jha se acha Hindustan hamara." He was one of the founder of the idea of Pakistan. We teach our generations Muhammad Iqbal. And he is also the Rashtra Kavi of Pakistan, because we have our own national heroes.
The decision to give Vinayak Damodar Savarkar his due has once again got the opposition's goat. Listen in to the flurry of remarks and opposition coming in from the usual detractors.
This BJP government can convert Delhi University to Shishu Mandir of Rashtriya Sevaks. It is up to BJP, they can do anything, and I am sure that after a few months they can introduce Godse as hero of the country.
उनको देश के लोगों से कोई मतलब नहीं है, देश का विकास हो, गरीब आगे बढ़े, वो लोग ध्यान भटकाने का ही प्रयास करते हैं।
जब जापान जाती है, विदेश में जाती हैं प्रधानमंत्री जी, तो कहते हैं कि मैं गांधी के धरती से आया था, और जब देश में रहते हैं तो नाथुन राम गोडसे को महिमा मंडित करने वाले और गांधी के मूर्ति पर गोली चलाने वाले को भोपाल से टिकट देकर के एमपी बनाते हैं।
बीजेपी is in a mood to change the history of India. They have removed the Mughal dynasty of 300 years. They are forcing to forget the name of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. They are forcing to forget the name of Charles Darwin.
While the ecosystem is seething over the omission of Muhammad Iqbal, seeing it as another attempt by the BJP to hide the contribution of Muslims, veteran actor Naseeruddin Shah, who is known for his comments critical of the government, once again sent tremors in the political and social circles. In an interview with the Indian Express, he said that hate against Muslims has become fashionable these days, even among educated people. Meanwhile, the family of Savarkar is elated with the back-to-back decisions celebrating the nationalist icon. Listen in.
This is a great news indeed, because Veer Savarkar was not only a great revolutionary, patriot, social reformer, writer, author, orator, but he was also a brilliant political thinker. Unfortunately, our country ignored his warnings about the future, and including the possibility of partition and so many scenarios. I think this is a great opportunity for the students to learn directly how to analyze politics and about international relations also, because Savarkar had a great perspective of international relations. He always used to say that international relations should be based on the mutual needs and not any political philosophies.
So the legitimate question we are asking on the NewsHour tonight: who gains from demonizing Savarkar? That's the question, and that's the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the NewsHour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And joining the debate tonight, Gaurav Bhatia, national spokesperson of the BJP, Dr. Sanjay Jha, suspended Congress leader and author, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, author, scientist, professor, political analyst, call him what you will. Also this evening with me, Mr. Fuad Halim of the CPM, Ashutosh, senior journalist, Atikur Rahman, political analyst. My first question to you, Sanjay Jha. How can anybody have an objection to an optional paper on Veer Savarkar for people to make up their minds whether they want to read it, study it, give the exam or not? It's an optional paper. It's not being made compulsory. Have facts ever been something that would trouble somebody? Unless, of course, you've spent a lifetime burying the facts themselves.
Navika, I want to make 2 points really. Number one, George Orwell, who wrote his famous book 1984, actually made a very fascinating quote. And he said, those who control the present control the past. And those who control the past control the future. It is hardly intriguing as to why Mr. Modi's government, and we all know what Amit Shah publicly said, what they talk about correction of history is actually basically an infiltration of distortion into Indian history. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Look at the way Maulana Azad's name was very, blatantly removed as a reference point in the NCERT textbooks. Why would any government do that? You heard some bizarre justification of that coming from the authorities. Obviously they would. But I don't think anybody in India is going to be convinced about that. Now we also know, Navika, and we debate so often in your program practically every day, if not every alternate day. The truth of life is that this government, and we need to understand that, let's not beat out the bush and pussyfooty around. This government is unambiguously, explicitly Hindutva set. I mean, I remember, during 2014 in Chowpatty, and I lived close by, Mr. Modi on the billboards at Chowpatty, being propagated as the Hindu Samrat. Now, I have no problem with the BJP trying to become, the embodiment of the majoritarian sentiment, which they believe gives them dividends politically. But India, as of today, remains a country which is secular in its character, secular in its distinction, and I think is extremely, in my opinion, brilliant as an example of diversity. I'll give you one example, Navika. I'm a big cricket fan.
So you're saying
yesterday?
So you're saying Savarkar being taught in Delhi University will tarnish the secular image of this country?
No.
Do you recall what Indira Gandhi has said about him?
Yeah. No, I wasn't saying that, Navika, but I want to juxtapose that with the parliament being inaugurated on Mr. Savarkar's 140th anniversary. Pragya Singh Thakur talking about Nathuram Godse being, a patriot. The assassin of Mahatma Gandhi being hailed as a patriot. Nothing happened, right? I mean, Mr. Modi came and gave interviews. We all know. I mean, this is standard BJP playbook. And therefore, the bottom line, and I'll tell you what is going to happen. I'm forecasting it. What the BJP has unleashed is two things. Number one, you can't stop the internet, the BJP. The internet carries the truth of life. It's not going to go away no matter how many textbooks they change. They will lose the battle against the internet. Point number two, another government that comes in power in the subsequent years, hopefully 2024, will once again go back and undo the damage they have done. And I think this will thereafter become what I call is the de-education of India's young, because every political party will begin to believe in putting its own historical context as opposed to putting facts on the table. I believe the BJP is blatantly
Dr. Sanjay Jha, you're really giving sermons almost as if you're the pious Pope. The fact of the matter is that you've distorted history in your time. The fact is that you say that anybody who controls the past will control the future. Well, you thought that as well. And Gaurav Bhatia, I want to ask you, did the Congress not control the past in the kind of history that was put out in textbooks so that they thought they would control the entire future of this country?
Navika not only controlled the history that is shared with the fellow Indians for them to make a judgment of all the iconic heroes, but they insulted other national heroes. And let's not forget, Veer Savarkar ji is not the only one. What about Sardar Patel? Did he get his due? What about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose? Did he get his due? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar being chased by the Congress party because they didn't want anybody to appear taller or be taller than the Gandhi family. And let me say this with some responsibility. Today the chapter for the Congress is secularism. Navika, today the chapter in the Constitution of India which relates to freedom of speech is of no relevance to the Congress party. Because what about the right to know history? Freedom of speech and expression. I am reminded of Idi Amin's infamous quote where he said, there is freedom of speech, but I cannot guarantee freedom after speech. And that is why today they want to even control the text, the papers, the research that is being done about the history of our country. I think it should come out in the open for the reason people of India are smart enough, wise enough to choose their heroes, and Congress should not force its own ideology on anybody. My second point would be, Indira Gandhi's letter you mentioned, Navika, I am going a step further to also quote a remark from Indira Gandhi when on the death of Veer Savarkar ji, she said this: his death removes a great figure of contemporary India, that his name was byword of daring and patriotism. He was cast in the mold of a classic revolutionary and countless people drew inspiration from him. Indira Gandhi. Second, why is it that we have a portrait of him if he was not the hero that the Congress party is stating in the parliament? Why did Indira Gandhi release a postage stamp? The reason is simple. How many freedom fighters can we name, Navika, who have served such an excruciating sentence in the jail for the freedom of our country? दो काला पानी की सजा हुई और इनको शर्म नहीं आती है. I'm sure they can't even name one person from the Gandhi Parivar who has served such imprisonment in jail for the larger cause and welfare of the country. And last but not the least, I would only like to say to the pseudo champions of freedom of speech, let India deliberate, let India debate, let India think, and then decide who the national heroes are. There is no doubt, at least listen to the Shiv Sena headed by Uddhav Thackeray, who has warned Rahul Gandhi and has told him that if you insult Veer Savarkar, we have nothing to do with you.
Well, Dr. Sanjay Jha, let me also tell you, apart from Indira Gandhi's letter of May 1980, where she calls Savarkar the son of India and also says that his defiance of the British government has its own important place in the annals of our freedom movement, even if you don't really give too much credence to that, let me tell you what was said by Savarkar himself in the Hindu Mahasabha. He said, let no cognizance be taken whatsoever of man's being Hindu or Mohammedan, Christian or Jew. Let all citizens of that Indian state be treated according to their individual worth, irrespective of their religious or racial percentage in the general population. He went on to say, there shall be no state religion for the Hindustan Free State or any of its provinces. Yet, you demonize Savarkar and call him a Hindutva icon. Why?
Navika, I'll tell you why. But there are I want to make 2 points here. Number one, Bhatia mentioned about Sardar Patel and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. And to your viewers and to your panelists, that is the perfect example of the insecurity and the inferiority complex that the Sangh Parivar has. Can you imagine? They have actually made, and I'm personally very happy, they have actually celebrated Sardar Patel and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, both of them who publicly were against their Hindutva politics. One of them banned the RSS, and the other person had absolute contempt for the politics of polarization that the Hindutva characters were doing pre-independence. And Mr. Bhatia were not aware because obviously no contribution in the freedom struggle, no contribution in the Quit India movement. I can understand the frustration. But your point is valid on Mr. Savarkar. Let me tell you why. Mrs. Indira Gandhi, I believe, was right in applauding Mr. Savarkar as a nationalist. If you ask me, as a student of politics and history, I do believe that Mr. Savarkar was a nationalist who had the intentions of India's freedom in his mind. I'm not disputing that. But things changed after he was freed from the Andaman and Nicobar jail. He changed dramatically thereafter, to the extent that he supported the British against the freedom struggle that Gandhiji and others were fighting for. And the last point, the reason why I think the Congress has a problem is because father of the nation, no other than Mahatma Gandhi, who I think is an inspiration to the world, was killed by Nathuram Godse, a member of the Hindu Mahasabha, whose president was Vinayak Damodar Savarkar. So Mr. Modi and Mr. Gaurav Bhatia have to make a choice today. You can't have Mahatma Gandhi and Vinayak Damodar Savarkar in the same breath. For that reason alone, you have to make a choice.
Sanjay Jha, is Rahul Gandhi responsible for everything that every politician or every neta in Congress says? Number one. And number two, did Indira Gandhi not know about how much Savarkar had changed even in 1980? She was waiting for Dr. Sanjay Jha and Rahul Gandhi to explain to her. Gaurav Bhatia?
That can coexist, Navika. He could be a nationalist, but he was also part of the Hindu.
Navika, let me respond to Jha.
That murdered Gandhiji.
Now, Jha, listen to me. Please ask Jha to be quiet.
Yes, Bhatia.
Jha, chup ho jao. Suno Jha. One by one.
Okay, all right.
Jha should know. Yes. Jha should know. Look at his arguments. The first, he said that after the incarceration, Veer Savarkar ji had changed completely. Okay, these are the dates for you. 26th of Feb 1966, I read what Indira Gandhi said. She praised Veer Savarkar. The second date is 20th of May 1970. A letter by Indira Gandhi calling Veer Savarkar son of the soil. And third, 28th of May 1970, Indira Gandhi releasing a postage stamp. My question to you is very simple. Did Indira Gandhi not know about the change that you were talking about? Second, you spoke about Maulana Abul Kalam Azad being erased from history by the BJP. Look at this, Jha. I have the latest ad by Congress party during the plenary session, and they forgot Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. Jha, ऐसा क्यों करते हो? शर्म नहीं आती आपको? एड में मौलाना अबुल कलाम आजाद है नहीं. Are you so full of hatred for the Muslims? And third but not the least, Sardar Patel was not given Bharat Ratna. Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi were conferred Bharat Ratna before B.R. Ambedkar and Sardar Patel. And please tell the Gandhi Parivar to at least go and visit the world's tallest statue that has been made by Shri Narendra Modi ji's government, and the Gandhi Parivar has not even found it fit to visit the statue and pay their respect. Okay, Jha? I hope I answered all your questions.
Well, let me get in the others on the panel. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, you're a professor yourself. And let me ask you, is this a debate that should have been settled 75 years ago, or maybe 60 years ago, or maybe 50 years ago? Why is it having to be sorted out now with those who actually are misquoting their own leaders, forgotten what their own leaders have said, only talking about Savarkar as somebody who kept apologizing to the British?
Good evening, Navika. I've been waiting very patiently for my turn, so please, I hope my fellow panelists give me the courtesy of a couple of minutes. Look, it's a very interesting debate, and let me jump straight into it. Adding Savarkar in the syllabus is welcome, but removing Iqbal from textbooks is not. Include Iqbal, then describe in detail his bigotry and rampant jihadism. We don't want our next generation to not know about Iqbal, Navika. We want our next generation to know the truth about Iqbal. Iqbal was a psychopathic bigot. Praising him is like praising Aurangzeb's poetry, forgetting his bigotry. It was Iqbal who said, ISIS style, quote, I am a pan-Islamist. The mission of Islam is to purge this world of infidelity and worship of false gods. And this mission would ultimately be fulfilled, inshallah, unquote. It was Iqbal who carried the coffin of Ilmuddin, the assassin of Rangila Rasul's publisher, and said, blasphemy had been avenged. It was Iqbal who said, Muslim women should not be given more than religious education. It was the same Iqbal who was in reality the son of a Kashmiri Pandit Ratan Lal, who was given a choice, convert or die. Naturally, Iqbal began hating Hindus, wanted to purge polytheism. To eulogize him is to be as psychopathic as Iqbal himself. Navika, distorted histories leave wounds that both medicine and time cannot heal, and very few have been distorted more than Savarkar's. It is high time truth about him was taught instead of the only thing that is taught, his so-called apology. And talking of apologies, Motilal Nehru had to plead and grovel before the Viceroy to get his son Jawaharlal off Naba jail, as he couldn't stand the harshness of it. Savarkar was in solitary for 6 months. Now, there is no doubt that Savarkar was a fearless freedom fighter before he was incarcerated in Kalapani, and that he suffered terribly there, Navika, terribly. So I am ambivalent towards his mercy petitions. By the way, Gandhi had also advised Savarkar's brother that Savarkar should write mercy petition, and Gandhi himself wrote an appeal to the British to release Savarkar. Besides, the co-founder of the Communist Party of India, Dange, also wrote mercy petitions to the British. Bismil and Ashfaqullah Khan also wrote mercy petitions. Yes, once released, Savarkar did ask Indians to join the British Army, but then so did Mahatma Gandhi. Yes, Savarkar was also against Quit India movement, but then so was Ambedkar, who said, and I quote, Quit India movement is both irresponsible and insane, showing bankruptcy of statesmanship, unquote. And for those who say you needed to be thrown in jail by the British if you were a true freedom fighter, I ask them, was Dr. Ambedkar ever thrown in jail by the British? There is also a fact that Savarkar was a bold social reformer, and unlike Gandhi, was vociferously against caste system. Also, his views on Islam are astonishingly similar to the views of Ambedkar. And we don't call Ambedkar an Islamophobe, do we, Navika? Just 10 seconds. Nations weaken not because of their past, Navika, but rather by how they are taught it. High time we taught our nation the truth.
Well, I want to ask Dr. Fuad Halim. Dr. Fuad Halim, when has knowledge become a taboo issue? The real facts should be known to everybody. Why are we hiding away from an optional paper that has been introduced? Simply because whether it is Iqbal or Savarkar, the facts are there. It is how they are being presented and how they have been presented that is under question. After all, Iqbal at Muslim League presidential address in 1930 said, Muslim demand for creation of a Muslim India within India is perfectly justified. Muslim demand is actuated by a genuine desire for free development. This is impossible under unitary government contemplated by the nationalist Hindu Hindu politicians want to secure permanent communal dominance in the whole of India. And he also said, among those new gods, nation is the biggest one. Its attire is like the coffin of religion. Your hands are strong because of monotheism. Islam is your only country if you are a follower of Mustafa. Which of these facts are wrong and not known? The problem is, somewhere you want to mislead and you want to interpret it according to the way you want people to think about history.
I will just speak about what comes from Savarkar's own mouth and the resolutions and the behavior of the Hindu Mahasabha under his tutelage and leadership. The Hindu Mahasabha under leadership of Savarkar joined hands with the Muslim League to form coalition governments in Sindh, Northwest Frontier Province and Bengal. In Sindh, the Hindu Mahasabha members under specific direction of Savarkar joined Ghulam Hussain Hidayatullah's Muslim League government, and this is Savarkar's own words. Quote, witness the fact that only recently in Sindh, the Sindh Hindu Mahasabha on invitation had taken the responsibility of joining hands with the League itself in running the coalition government. In the Northwest Frontier Province, Hindu Mahasabha members joined hands with Sardar and its irony, Aurangzeb Khan of the Muslim League to form the government in 1943. Now you have to keep in mind that the Pakistan resolution of the Muslim League was passed on the 23rd of March 1940 and 12th December 1940 under specific instruction of Savarkar, Dr. Syama Prasad Mukherjee joined A.K. Fazlul Haq's ministry as finance minister. A.K. Fazlul Haq is the gentleman who passed the Pakistan resolution at the Muslim League conference in Lahore. Now let's see what words Savarkar uses for justifying this coalition. He uses the word, open quote, practical politics, close quote. He uses the word, open quote, reasonable compromises, close quote. I quote him again, open quote, capture the centers of political power, close quote. So here you have Dr. Hemendas Badwani, a Hindu Mahasabha member of the Sindh government. He was health minister and he met Muhammad Ali Jinnah under specific instructions of Savarkar to ensure how to forge an anti-Congress alliance. These are documented histories.
What's your point, Dr. Fuad Halim? You can quote 2000 books. What is the point you are making?
I am quoting Savarkar. Do you want me to continue quoting Savarkar? Very interesting. The Sindh Assembly of the Hindu Mahasabha and the Muslim League passed a resolution. I quote that resolution, moved by G.M. Saeed. Muslims of India are a separate nation. That's the resolution that was adopted by the Sindh coalition government of the Hindu Mahasabha and the Muslim League. Now I am very clear that on the question of the two-nation theory, the ideas of Savarkar and the Hindu Mahasabha, which started off way back in 1906, was echoed by the Muslim League. And they both held this common idea that the people living in this geographical location are separate nations.
Idea was taken by the Muslim League, and that this idea did not come to the Muslim League. It came to Savarkar first. Well, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, on facts, he raised his hand. On facts,
Navika,
Anand Ranganathan, what do you have to say?
Let me finish.
Navika, let me just...
Let me finish. Please let me finish. I quote to you. Let me finish. I quote to you Veer Savarkar's resolution.
Veer bol diya to, it's not a fault. You said Veer Savarkar.
India.
You said Veer Savarkar. You're not at fault. Why are you taking back your words?
That's very interesting. That's a very interesting, because
Navika, can I please?
Veer was a self-appropriated title. So I'm coming to that. But let me finish quoting Savarkar's presidential address 1937. India cannot be assumed today to be a unitarian and homogeneous nation. But on the contrary, there are two nations in the main, the Hindus and the Muslims in India. This is Savarkar's presidential address 1937, Ahmedabad, at the Hindu Mahasabha conclave. So Savarkar was very clearly in tune with the Muslim League. He was very clearly somebody who wanted partition,
Muslim League has never been shunned by you like the Savarkar. Like Savarkar was shunned by you, which is why the question now comes, Anand Ranganathan, why do they have an allergy to anybody talking about a Hindu nation and no allergy to those talking about a Muslim nation? That's the question.
Yeah, first thing first, I have great respect for Dr. Halim as a doctor. He was a COVID warrior and everyone knows that I have great respect. That said, his knowledge of history is absolutely in keeping with the knowledge on anything that the communists have. I need to make 4 points. Number one, the question now, Dr. Halim, I didn't interrupt you.
I have
please.
quoted Sarwar.
And I respect you. Now, Navika, this is unfair.
I have quoted. Do you agree?
He started quivering in his boots already. Navika, please.
Okay,
this is not.
No, Dr. Fuad Halim, I gave you full opportunity to quote 4 or 5 verses. Now you'll have to listen to the response, Dr. Anand Ranganathan. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, go on. All other faders down.
Thank you very much. Number one, the fact of the matter is that as far as him quoting Savarkar is concerned, the issue is, should Savarkar be debated and included in the textbooks? He's quoting, so by all means, include all those quotes in the textbooks. The issue is cancel culture. They don't want to discuss and debate and include Savarkar. That is the point. Number two, as far as the communists are concerned, it is ironical that he is mentioning Savarkar and Muslim League. No one has been in cahoots with Muslim Leagues more than the communists on record. Paper after paper, that was what I was trying to show you. That the communists were the ones who said that Bengal, Punjab and Hyderabad along with the Muslim League agreed that it should have self-determination, and if they want to break up from India, let them be. These are the communists. Number three, the fact of the matter is that it is not Savarkar, as Dr. Halim says, who propounded the two-nation theory. It was in fact Karl Marx in his 1853 book, The Eastern Question. He was the first one who says that for Muslims, you have to have Dar al-Harb and Dar al-Islam. There are two separate nations. And finally, will he now at least agree, when he derides, Savarkar for having mercy petition, will he at least agree that the founder of the Communist Party, his God, Dange, pleaded and grovelled for the British for his mercy petition? Will he at least agree with that, Dr. Halim?
Dr. Fuad Halim, 30 seconds. Respond.
Well, it's very clear, and I thank Anand that he's accepted all the quotes that I have put forward, that Savarkar has conclusively propounded the idea of the two-nation theory in tune with the Muslim League, and the Hindu Mahasabha had an essential role in passing government resolution.
If you read those quotes, you will understand that was also a presidential address in 1930. The problem is with you, Dr. Fuad Halim, because you selectively quote and you do not acknowledge the quotes of 1930. But on Dange, do you believe even he apologized to the British? Yes or no? Anand Ranganathan waiting for his answer.
On Dange,
I am telling you very. I am also waiting for Anand Ranganathan's reply on the Sindh resolution and the other resolution.
Well. You're running away from the Dange question. You're running away from the Dange question, but let me get in Atikur Rahman. 1 minute. No, Dr. Fuad Halim, you've lost your time. Atikur Rahman. My question is simply this. Read about everything and everybody, because history is to know every version that there is and to study each one of this and piece the history together. Will you at least admit that we've been given one particular interpretation of history, not the other?
That's very correct, Navika ji. I am all for, including Veer Savarkar also, which we were never taught, but the students who, believed in getting, enormous amount of knowledge, they went to read Veer Savarkar also, Allama Iqbal also. But I take strong exception to emit and omit Allama Iqbal. There are quite a few misconceptions related to Allama Iqbal's theory of two nation, Navika ji. Allama Iqbal never allowed Muhammad Ali Jinnah to have his say of the idea of Pakistan. And I will read only 2 lines from a book by Dr. Rafiq Zakaria, Iqbal, the Poet and the Politician, which will establish Allama Iqbal never supported the two-nation theory of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. The Islamic State that came into existence by partitioning the subcontinent did not conform to Iqbal's concept of a nation as preached by him.
So I just read out the quotes of Allama Iqbal. Now you're saying even those quotes do not exist, just like Savarkar's 1930 quote is not existent? Are you saying that, Atikur Rahman?
Navika ji, let prudence take, the exception of the argument. Prudency demands call out all the names who propounded the two-nation theory. Firstly, it was Swami Dayanand Saraswati and Lala Lajpat Rai in the 1930s in a series of articles in the Tribune. And what they said, please, Dr. Anand, I never interrupted you. Navika ji, what is this? In all prudency, please, 1930 Tribune, what they said, there cannot be one India for Hindus and Muslims, 2 compartments separately. What was propounded?
Anand Ranganathan is contesting the facts. Anand Ranganathan, are you fact checking Atikur Rahman?
Please put the fader on Atikur Saab, because I need to quote directly. Navika, we can't have a reason.
Okay. Atikur Rahman, your facts are being contested. Fact check by Anand Ranganathan. Anand Ranganathan.
Yes, as I said, and now I'm quoting directly. See, this is the problem. As Sanjay Jha said, the internet has destroyed fake propaganda. यहाँ पे live आपका मैं demonstration दे रहा हूँ. This is direct quote written by Karl Marx in his book The Eastern Question, and I'm quoting Karl Marx in 1853. The Quran and the Musalman legislation emanating from it reduced the geography and the ethnography of the various peoples to the simple and convenient distinction of 2 nations. And the 2 countries, those of the faithful and those of the infidels. This is the two-nation theory of Karl Marx. First time he propounded 1853.
Well, the question, and Ashutosh, extremely sorry for coming last to you, and I'm short of time, but Ashutosh, the question tonight is just this. Are we in a country where we have read history of a certain slant, and today, when there is an attempt to read more in an optional manner, not even being forced down anybody's throat, we are hearing all of this hullabaloo just because there is the name of Savarkar that comes in. Is that tolerance?
Navika, I'm not talking about slants, I'm talking about facts. Somebody who was arrested for Gandhi's murder, put in jail, cannot be my icon, and I cannot be forced to accept him as a hero. That's a fact. And what Sardar Patel has said about Gandhi's assassination is a matter of record. He has said that the fanatics of the Hindu Mahasabha, presided by Vinayak Savarkar, a few fanatics, were behind the killings of Mahatma Gandhi. It's a fact of history. So somebody who was arrested for Gandhi's murder was put in jail. Yes, later he was given a clean chit. How can he or she maybe can be my
So you
icon?
are saying that somebody who even came out, I'm short of time, another day, but Gaurav Bhatia, the Supreme Court at that time did not hold him guilty, but Ashutosh holds him guilty till today, 2023. Respond.
Navika, you asked a very pertinent question when you said, why do these people have a problem with Veer Savarkar and the real history? the answer is in one line, because a dead Savarkar will unite and inspire more Indians than a living Gandhi. And I would like to respond to Fuad. Fuad must read S.A. Dange. S.A. Dange said this for Veer Savarkar in 1966. The chairman of the Communist Party of India, S.A. Dange, said the death of Veer Savarkar removes the scene of Indian history, one of the great anti-imperialists. This is quoted from Vikram Sampat's book. Third, why don't you trust the court of the country? Why don't you trust? If he has been acquitted, he has been acquitted. And this exactly shows the hatred that they have for Veer Savarkar. For them, a person like Afzal Guru should have the right to at least be spoken about.
Absolutely.
Because it is their right for freedom of speech.
Yes, Afzal Guru
Savarkar
can, but Veer Savarkar can't. That is the twisted sense of propriety that we've held when talking about the freedom movement's heroes. Can history be corrected, or is the interpretation that needs to be looked at with a fresh, completely fresh outlook? If that's all that Delhi University is doing, why are people up in arms? Because knowing history is the only way to leave the judgment to those who read it and decide who their real icons will be. And that's all there is to it. Thank you very much to all my panelists on joining me on this big debate. On the